Ramadan Kareem, and welcome to our first Gulf Food virtual conference. It is my great pleasure as the director of the Gulf Food Show to welcome you to this first in our three-part series. You might wonder why this topic is of such crucial import. Just 8 weeks ago, we hosted the world's largest annual food and beverage event in Dubai and welcomed over 100,000 attendees from across the world. But haven't things changed since? I've been watching the news this week as the President of the United States seeks to implement the Defense Production Act in response to an advertisement taken out by the US's largest meat processor, also happens to be an exhibitor at Gulf Food and great friends, who said that the food supply chain is broken. Here in the UAE, over 90% of our food needs are met by imports. We are also the world's largest re-exporter of major commodity groups. So the security of our food supply chain is of vital importance. Over the last few weeks, this coronavirus has impacted us both personally and professionally. And whilst we acknowledge the heroic work of our frontline respondees, all of us in the food supply industry recognize that this is our moment to ensure that the food supply chain remains unbroken. I'll hand you over now to Kante Shalke, our moderator for today's session, who will introduce our speakers and then start on this quite pressing agenda. Before I do so, just a few moments, we've received many questions from hundreds of thousands of our delegates and our wider community, many of which we've aggregated in today's question and answer session. However, you do, as attendees, have a Q&A button where you can raise your own questions. And if we have enough time at the end, we will present these to the audience. If you see a question that is relevant to you, please upvote it and we'll bring these to the fore. But I do hope you enjoy today's session and we very much look forward to seeing you at the end and during part two. I'll hand you over to Kante. Welcome.
Thank you, Mark, and Ramadan Kareem from Chicago. Welcome to Taming the Black Swan. Can our food supply chain cope? I'm Kante Shalke, the moderator today, and I'll be focusing over the next 15 minutes or so to tease out all that matters on the food supply chain against the backdrop of this formidable coronavirus pandemic. Today's webinar is brought to you by Gulf Food Virtual, the online channel for the world's annual largest food show, and its larger portfolio of food events coming back in November at the iconic Dubai World Trade Center. I've been there, it's fabulous. Now, for those new to this, let's start with the Black Swan theory that author Nassim Nicholas Taleb introduced as the extreme impact of rare and unpredictable outlier events and the human tendency to find simplistic explanations for these events, but after they happen. One thing is certain, Black Swan events are rare and unpredicted, but when these highly improbable events occur, they change perspectives and behaviors drastically. Notable such events include September 11, 9/11, and more recently, the Arab Springs. The coronavirus pandemic is a Black Swan event with reverberations across the globe, and its impact crosses all boundaries from personal to professional, as Mark pointed out, putting strategic sectors such as food security at risk. We've witnessed in different parts of the world sporadic surges of panic buying. Countries that are major grain and food commodity exporters are stopping or putting tight restrictions on food exports, as seen in Russia, Ukraine, India, Vietnam, and many other countries. And no later than yesterday, John Tyson, chairman of Tyson Foods, the world's second largest meat and poultry company, warned that the food supply chain is breaking as they had to shut down yet another plant due to the pandemic. Today, we are joined by 4 leaders in the food industry, all hailing from different parts of the value chain, to answer the question as to while global food supply chains are put to the test, can our food supply chain cope? So our panelists they span the food supply chain from end to end, from farms and manufacturers and processors via a distributor to a retailer, connecting with consumers. So we have Hani Weiss, CEO of Majid Al Futtaim Retail in the UAE. He leads the exclusive Carrefour franchisee in more than 30 countries across the MENA. Today, Hani leads a business of 37,000 colleagues, operates over 300 Carrefour stores, and serves more than 750,000 customers a day. Tolga Caesar, CEO of Al Safi Danone, KSA, with dairy brands like Al Safi, Activia, Danette, Danao, Actimel, and Safio, supplies products to more than 32,000 retailers across Saudi Arabia and the Middle East region. We have Willem van Welt Meyer, CEO of Al Ain Farms. I said that wrong, CEO of Al Ain Farms. He's an integrated supplier of dairy, juice, and poultry in the UAE. And connecting all of them is Bashant Gandhi, COO of Truebell, a distributor which serves as both importer and distributor across the MENA region. But before we start, we would like to know, where in the food supply chain are you all from? So this is a quick poll of our audience to break the ice and understand each other a little better. So let's get to know you a little better. I believe your poll is on and you just have to click it and give us your responses. While you are responding, I will set the stage for the first question. We're going to start with challenges. What are they? And each speaker will get 2 to 3 minutes to answer. They'll be precise, and I will try my best to tease out from them, are the challenges identical across the supply chain? Does size make a difference? Have the challenges changed as a matter of time? But most importantly, I'm going to start with, I believe we should start from end to end. So from the producers, the farmer, producers, processors, distributor to the retailer. So Tolga, would you start with, is this unprecedented crisis, in this unprecedented crisis, tell us, what are the top 3 challenges that are currently being faced by you?
Thank you, Kanta. Quickly, our deepest sympathies should go out to everyone who is affected. And of course, our heartfelt gratitude to all the medical and healthcare workers, security personnel, governments and aid agencies working around the clock to keep us safe. I think we should mention that. And Ramadan Kareem. Quickly, I know you want to go to the point quickly. I think the challenges, what keeps me awake at night, the safety of our people, safety of our manufacturing and the livestock, and then our supply chain. Kanta.
Thank you very much. Oh, we've got our poll results coming in. And it looks like most of you, well, 34% of you, are from food manufacturing or processing. So our conversation today is going to be very important for you. Also for distributors, who the next group, 17%. And, oh, I'm sorry, we've got a group called Other. Well, if you don't know who you are, then you will stay in the other group. So we've got manufacturers, processors, distributors. Of course, we've got suppliers, and then we've got retail, and also the food service industry and logistics. Logistics is such an important part of what we do today because it's logistics and knowing how to be organized that really makes the difference. So thank you for what you provided, Tolga. Would you like to address this, Wilhelm? What are your top 3 challenges?
Our top three challenges are, of course, as with everybody, our people and the protocols for healthcare and so on. Work from home, which for us was quite a big difference. We are completely not used to that. Then the second one is business continuity. Major event there was effectively locking down our sites. And the second thing is our companies, our activities are so much intertwined is to start separating different activities, especially production and downstream logistics. And next to that, given the worker situation in UAE, we have moved in total 600 people to new accommodation for two reasons. For hygiene reasons, because that is really going a step up. And second, to separate them as well, because otherwise one incident would have a very, very big impact. Third is a thing where we are only part of, and that's the national food security. Because in the end, we are all of us sitting here, we are parts of the national food security. We are a modest company, but we are in a very large and important sector, is how to secure that. And then, of course, we have our farms, but this is not a food safety issue, this is a people safety issue. But in terms of the importance in the country of food security and food continuity is actually very much so the raw materials, so the feed of our animals and packaging. That's roughly the three subjects we were working on with one or two examples I gave you now.
Thank you so much. And that's with a large portfolio of different types of products and different categories.
Yes.
Quite a task.
Yeah.
And I imagine that you've got a big task ahead of you too, Prashant, with all that you're dealing with and having a distributor chain where when we talk about physical distancing, how do you physical distance yourself when you have to be there because your business is the connective tissue of all the businesses that these gentlemen have? So what are your top three challenges? Mute.
Specifically, we are not doing anything different to what other companies are doing in the industry. Of course, we have more focus on the employees than we have ever had before, as they are our boots on the ground. Their health and safety is our paramount importance right now. So the approach we have taken, of course, is we have segregated employee accommodations in order to avoid cross-infection between departments, such as receiving, picking, distribution fleet, because in the end, they all come together at one point in time. So we wanted to make sure that they are kept separate in different accommodations. Secondly, what we have done as a precaution is, in case if we do have a breakout at our facility, we have rented out remote facilities for staff quarantine in case any eventuality that breaks out. So it allows us to keep a control on the infection. Thirdly, staffs staying in accommodations have been provided meal kits to avoid venturing outside their area of residence, because we want to make sure that they are safe, they're secure, and more importantly, they come to work on time, clean, healthy, safety, and able to continue the business in a clear, professional manner. More importantly, in terms of operations and business continuity, I think they are our frontline workers. So, we want to make sure that we continue to pay the salaries on time, 100%. There have been no pay cuts for these workers across in the field. And yeah, that's where my call is, I would say.
Thank you very much. And that then brings us to Hani. And you are, as Prashant was talking about frontline workers, you have the bulk of the frontline workers, and you also face, I believe, the brunt of consumers when something goes wrong, because what these gentlemen do is somewhat behind the scenes. You're the one who gets to get the glory and the punishment when it's doled out. So what are your challenges?
Well, absolutely right. First of all, thank you for having me, and Ramadan Kareem. As you know, the COVID-19 continues to spread around the world, impacting people, business, and communities. And here in Carrefour, we have been experiencing a surge in traffic, both online and in our physical stores. And as customers wanted to ensure to have more food and essentials they need. So my biggest challenges, the three biggest challenges for me were, first, the safety of our employees and customers. And for that, we have taken several measures in terms of daily temperature check for our people coming to the store, implement the social distancing in staff transportation, accommodation, arranging for special accommodation for quarantine, making sure that, you know, all our staff accommodation are disinfected on a daily basis. And also to protect our frontliners, we have implemented the plexiglass panels in all our checkout and cash lines to protect both our customers, but also our employees. And we made sure that we have one of our staff at the entrance of each store, sterilizing and disinfecting all trolleys and baskets before handing over to customers. In terms of customer safety, we have implemented all the hygiene products for use in the store, like the hand sanitizers, gloves, and masks. But also we have the distance markers placed in the store to ensure the social distancing are well respected among customers. We removed food sampling. We removed cosmetics also testing in the store completely in order to make sure that these products are not, you know, disinfecting and helping the contamination of the virus. Now, these are some of the measures to protect our employees and the customers. The other main concern for me was the supply chain. And without all these gentlemen, I cannot sell anything. I need to have my products on shelves. So our concerned customers, they see that we have enough for them today, tomorrow, and in the future. And this is where we worked very closely with our partners, excuse me, our partners, to make sure that we plan with them to have ahead the stock, and we share the data that we have, because we have a tremendous amount of data on the customer behavior over the first few days of the pandemic, because people want completely irrational, you know, stocking up, buying to make sure they have daily essentials, not only for their use, but for their use for the coming 1 month or so. So it was a bit chaotic, I would say, in the beginning, but we made sure working closely with our partners that we don't have out of stock as much as possible. The third challenge for me was to meet the surge in demand of the online orders, which was completely unprecedented. I mean, I'm talking about 6 times more versus the weeks before the COVID-19. And this was a major, major concern to see ourselves trying to implement in 12 days a plan of 12 months, which put me really always on my toes with my executive team, thinking what we're gonna do the next minute and so.
Thank you very much, Hani. That was very, very much in depth. So you didn't even allow me to ask you any questions because you addressed a lot of things that I would have asked as a follow-up. But the important thing that came across from how every one of you answered, but particularly from you, was about physical distancing, which if I'm a consumer or if I'm a supplier or a buyer of anyone in the food business, I'm simply thinking of, that's a lot of resources, a lot of people, and therefore I wonder about productivity. And when I wonder about productivity, I think about the cost implications. So you addressed it. I'm going to go to the two gentlemen, Wilhelm and Tolga, because they're in the manufacturing business. How are you taking this challenge of physical distancing and being able to produce while being productive and profitable and cost effective? Tolga?
Sure, Kanta, it's a massive challenge. And guess what? When you face an unprecedented challenge like this, you find out that whatever you know is not enough. So being a joint venture between Danone, the world's #1 dairy player, and a very big local group, a reputable group like Al-Faisalia, we leveraged the best of 2 worlds. We received a lot of guidance, a lot of best practices from Danone system. And also we used all the access of Al-Faisalia to best class consultants. And with my leadership team, we established a business continuity platform from day 1. And ever since, every 2 days, religiously, we are going through all the measures. And I believe we took all the best class measures at all our sites. As you know, the heart of our operation is 1.5 hours out of Riyadh at Al-Kharj. And we have 55,000 Holstein cows there. I think still it's the world's biggest integrated dairy facility. And our total people in excess of 3,500, all across the 14 markets that we are covering. And you can imagine the size of the scale of the challenge. But again, using all the best practices from Danone, from the consultants, our own expertise, our people, I believe we took a number of very important measures. And so far, they're working quite well. And every 2 days, we go through each and every action with the leadership team.
Thank you so much. Wilhelm, I'm a food scientist. I know about dairy science. That's what your business is, and you've got a whole other portfolio of products. In terms of staffing and workforce, how is the pandemic impacting your business? And are there adverse effects on your productivity and, most importantly, quality of your products?
Well, the answer is no. The answer is no, no, and no. But let me explain it a little bit.
Okay.
Is very similar. The first thing to manage that was to have a small team of 6 people. We made it very fast decisions, not always perfect, but very fast. Second, decisive, so they will be implemented, so it goes beyond piece of paper. And third is, and the words have been used earlier, boots on the ground. So of these 6 directors, they were themselves all the time in the field, even at workers' accommodations, organizing transport, getting the situation. For me, very much also to focus on what is now really the priority. And within a couple of days, we had our list, and we decided, for example, to move, which for our standards is a lot, 200 people within 24 hours to complete new accommodation, to separate them. The other point at the food factory is we went very early to the farms and food lockdown, and been religiously to that, very, very strict. It was mentioned that earlier discussions also, it's in all the little details, leakages everywhere. So every time you find little things which go wrong, which can have, you only need one wrong thing and you have a big case. So that is really getting our attention there. In the factories themselves and on the farm, we don't have too many issues in keeping distance and managing that. As I said earlier, our focus was fully on accommodation, and the fact that accommodation is integrated with food manufacturing and farms, and that we split. That was our first focus. So that was where the worry was.
Thank you so much, Wilhelm.
Okay.
Being meticulous and being how you distribute your people is very important. You didn't have that many people. Yeah, so that was a good news for you. But Bhushan, your business relies on a lot of people. So you need people, you're the connective tissue, you've got people just running around. How did you manage? And would you give that in a couple of sentences, please?
I think, for us, because in the distribution field, we start from supply chain in terms of making sure that we have a front office and a back office. If you want to talk about the back office, it's everything to do with supply chain, imports, clearance, port clearance, airport clearance. What we did in the middle of March is we basically said everybody goes to work from home. It was very difficult and challenging because we never have worked from home. I've never been one of those persons who said, you know what, how about we try to work from home? I get a call from my father saying, are you crazy? You're not going to work from home. So in a way, I think it has put us all in a position to be forced to work from home. And we have learned a lot together. At the same time, we are also very well connected with all the new technology that we have today.
Thank you so much.
More importantly, to go on the front line, if you talk about distribution itself, we have a big team of receiving, picking, distribution inside the facility. For us, the importance of safety and security of staff was paramount, which means that in the middle of March itself, we started implementing procedures like temperature checks, making sure that everybody has their gloves and masks on during that time itself. Because we do a lot of imports from Asia. So we found people asking us for masks and gloves in January. And I was like, why do you guys need masks and gloves in January? You know, and for us, we were giving them, in fact, from here to them when they came here for Gulf food. And people were hand carrying them back home. That's when I started realizing that, you know what, we got to make sure that our staff is safe and secure. To go on, how do we address those challenges about distribution? We have basically split the shifts. So we work in 2 shifts to make sure that there's no overcrowding inside the facility. Whatever we were used to before, of course, we threw it out of the window and said, you know what, this is the new norm. This is the way forward. And that's the way we work.
Thank you so much.
It's
Thank
double
you.
job.
Yes. Yeah, it's an incredible job, and it's a balancing act, which is very, very difficult. So we've got our challenges, and the audience, you heard our challenges. Let us hear what you think the impact of this crisis will be on the industry in the next 6 months. So we're going to have a poll that's going to ask you, which of the likely effects of COVID are you going to see on your company's supply chain? And while you're addressing that, we're going to talk about how these 4 gentlemen and their various nodes across the supply chain are doing something very incredible. And that is they are turning lemons into lemonade. So this set of questions, and this time I'm going to ask you just to give us 2 and 3 sentences and not more. So we're going to talk about what are the major changes? What are the things that you are doing today to stay afloat in your respective businesses? So I'm going to start with Wilhelm first. He's always precise, he's always quick. And then we'll go to Tolga, Prashant, and Hani, and 2 sentences each, please. So you can think about your answers.
You're mute. Maybe because many things are very similar, but just the things I like to stress here is what we see in our company with our 2,500 colleagues is that the whole culture of teamwork has changed overnight. This is unbelievable what has happened because we have such clear shared objectives. We have such clear things which matter for us, our own personal safety and the safety of our company. The other one which was mentioned is work from home. We all thought, oh, wow, what's going to happen here? In the end, it's much more effective, actually. It's almost tiring to do it because we work much harder in less than what people think. And the last thing is that in our thinking, as the type of company we are with large volumes, with lots of discipline, what we see the beauty of people taking fast decisions and doing the unthinkable. Moving a sales office for around 100 people from inside to outside within 24 hours with full infrastructure, all the communication and everything. That is a change. These are the changes which I see so much on the people side and the behavioral side. Otherwise, it goes a lot about all the checking and things. Of course, we do that.
Thank you very much. And Tolga, how are you turning lemon into lemonade? Because you've got challenges in terms of producers who may not be as technologically advanced, and to getting technology to them could be quite a challenge, no?
Kanta, complete paradigm shifts. Before, some stocks and a very solid contracts, we used to feel secure. Now, guess what? Some countries, we see that they are stopping exports of commodities. Some countries hoarding shipments. And imagine our 55,000 cows. They don't have on and off switches. You have to feed them. And the feed, the first challenge, the first bucket is securing feed, is all about commodities. And of course, the ingredients and followed by packaging materials. So the entire concept of safety stocks have changed. Whatever we have in our stocks at our warehouses and in the country, okay, that's safe. The rest we need to secure in a very different way. And guess what? Ramping up these safety stocks is an unbelievable exercise. Because sometimes...
I have a question for you, Tolga, and that is, so if you're dealing with all of this, there is going to be definitely, because they're all exasperated, the possibility of fraud, no? Food fraud.
I don't think so, because again, it all goes back to your processes, systems, and we have very strong processes in place in terms of, you know, checking all the ingredients and testing, and our quality parameters are already very high. I think the challenge is it's okay to ramp up your safety stocks, but it comes with a very big price tag. In our case, I can give you a figure. It's in the excess of 100 million riyals, 100 million dirhams. It is a big call. And guess what? When I shared this with my board and my shareholders, not the slightest hesitation. They said, yes, please do it.
Thank you very much.
Of course, how to ramp up, how to ramp down is another challenge.
Thank you very much. Hani, while you're talking about this, how do you handle these challenges? So even after you've done the transaction, you've got quality standards in place, you've got an agreement with your suppliers, your distributors, etc. But then you find out that because you're operating in different countries, that the products purchased from one country to another are not at par with each other. They're substandard during your in-house testing, etc. How are you handling that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Let me just highlight one thing, is that we as a Majid Futem company, we leverage on each other, all businesses during this tough time. And what we have done, we have reskilled more than 1,000 employees in order for them to be redeployed in our stores and fulfillment centers to enhance the customer experience and to meet this surge in number of orders online and the physical orders. So this was a major change for me in terms of business model. The other thing is that we had many of our colleagues sleeping literally in the store, i.e. spending time during lockdown period or curfew in the store to prepare for next day morning. So when the customers come to our store, see the stores in full shape, all products on shelves, they feel like there is no issue. And in fact, they don't know that behind this success or what they see on shelves, a lot of our colleagues who decided to lock themselves down in the stores and make sure that they provide the products available to our customers the next day in the morning. The other thing,
Hani, the poll results address exactly what you're talking about. The top answer is, you know, about the effects of the pandemic is shortage of supplies, or the suppliers are closing down. And when you look at you know, news everywhere, the media, complaints, various social media chats, etc., they're all talking about they can't find things. So when has this changed? And many of them are not coming to your store, they're doing it online, right, for delivery. So what is the real state of the supply chain? And are we, you know, do we have products or do we not have products, or are we switching around?
Absolutely. I mean, it's both of everything. As you know, in a country like UAE, 90% of our fresh products, for instance, are imported. So what we have done, for instance, here in the UAE, in collaboration with the UAE Ministry of Climate Change and Environment, we have launched a program allowing 6,000 small and medium-sized local farmers to ensure sustainable supply of fresh food and vegetables across the country. And by that also, not only allowing farmers to go to our stores, but also allowing our customers to you know, benefit from fresh produce here in the market with less food carbon emission. The other thing is that working with our suppliers and partners, we had to, using the advanced analytics, we had to change the way that we order stock, because what used to be very valid in the past is not anymore. So I'll give you some examples. We use, for instance, to stock 15 days of pasta, but nowadays we stock for at minimum 3 months, And many other essential products now, it goes between 2 to 3 months, working with our supplier and the government in most of the countries that we are operating in to increase the security stock to go up to 12 months in certain countries like here in the UAE, and some others up to 6 months. So I would say here it needs a drastic change in the way that retailers and suppliers are working, and put a major pressure on the supply chain logistics, notwithstanding here talking about the increase of the freight costs, because many of these products were shipped by air versus in the past inland because of the border closure and what have you. And all this complication, we as a retailer, we said we're gonna maintain our price to the consumer. We made sure that the products is available and maintained fresh and at the same price.
When we talk about supply chain, being able to bring products to you, we've got a lot of suppliers who are online who are asking, who are sort of piping in and saying they see, when there's adversity, they see an opportunity, and of course they ask, how do we become a supplier to Carrefour? The other question is, does size matter? Do you have to be small, or could you be small, or do you have to be large? And how do we do that? But could you answer this in just one sentence?
Absolutely. As you know, online, as I said, with the surge in number of orders, I'll give you an example. We have witnessed a growth of the online orders of more than 400%. So we benefit from this occasion to invite many small and medium also enterprises to join our marketplace. And as an example, we work with our sister company, the shopping malls, to onboard more than 55 tenants of our shopping malls during the closure to sell on the Carrefour marketplace and benefit from this opportunity to have millions of customers accessing daily our mobile app and web store.
Thank you very much. And so with that surge in demand for online delivery, Bhushan, what are you doing? How big is your distribution? Has it gone wider, or have you narrowed your categories so that you're only delivering what they need right now?
So I would say we are a medium scale importer and a distributor. So we stock close to about 2,500 different products in the market in the UAE. We have had challenges, yes, indeed. Countries where were open before, they're not open today because of the lockdown. At the moment, this system still seems to be working. Goods are still arriving from Italy, for instance, even though the country is in a lockdown. But it would only take one country to start banning export of food for the whole system to be at risk. As others start retaliating and to make sure that they secure the supplies.
So India is a big supplier, right? And a big trading partner. How will their shutdown affect your supply, and then ultimately, the materials for Tolga and Wilhelm's business, but also for Hani?
Eventually, people will have to start sourcing in other places as well. We have to start looking at local production facilities in the UAE. I know that the government is working hard to push local production, local manufacturing, and the retailers themselves are giving a big drive to the local manufacturers, local producers. So this is a good activity itself from the retailer point of view. If you ask me in terms of where my product comes from today, where the product of Truebell comes from today, we do a lot of product from Italy, a lot of product from Philippines, from France, from all across the world. We import basically from about 30 different countries. So yes.
Thank you very much. And that raises a very important question, and particularly considering that all of you, and each and every one of you panelists, is from a different part of the world. And the question that I would ask is, are governments and regulators doing enough to cut through the red tape? I hope there are some people, policymakers and regulators on the call today and listening. What would your advice be to them? So we'll start with Wilhelm, go to Tolga, Hani, and come back with Bhushan. One sentence. What would you like regulators and governments to do to help the food supply chain be robust and secure?
The thing the regulators can do is mainly to focus on creating a level playing field versus import, because we can organize as many farms, as many cows, as much raw materials as we want. But if there's no market where we can compete in the local market, it will not work. So there's a lot of talk about raw material security, imports, and so on. That's very important, such as tariffs and subsidies. But the most important part is that in the market, we can add sustainable profit. So nothing extreme or something, anything, can market bring our products to the local market for local consumption. That is the major question.
Thank you. Tolga?
I think here we should really appreciate the efforts of the local governments. And especially, I have a very interesting example. We received the word from His Excellency Food Security Minister, and she simply asked us to secure the fresh dairy product supply from Saudi to UAE. And here, you know, between Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and UAE, there is a great brotherhood and collaboration. And our people, we went to Hani, and we said, Hani, can we place our fresh milk products? And let me tell you, from a discussion to being on the shelf in 1 week, never seen. And at Carrefour, thanks to Hani and his team, in 1 week time, we placed fresh milk on Carrefour shelves. And I think this is a great example.
Thank you so much. And that sets the stage for you, Hani. But you know, having that sort of a testimonial from a trading partner is simply marvelous. So your perspective.
Absolutely, and thank you, Tolga, for mentioning that. You know, I think we have worked very closely with government, and our advice since day one, we said this is the best time where private sectors can work hand by hand with government to make sure that they are arranging for future and not for short-term and mid-terms action plans. And that's why when I spoke about the initiative that you have taken with farmers, there are other initiatives. We have signed an agreement with Emirates Biofarm. Today, they are utilizing only 20% of their land. And we requested the government to help them to go much more on subsidy in order for them to increase the local produce, to reduce the price. Because today, many of the imported products at the right season reaches the country at a cheaper price than the local produce. And this is where we requested government to work more in helping the local farmers so that we as a retailer, we provide the right platform for them to sell the local produce at better price than the imports. The other thing, as Tolga mentioned, we were really very agile working with our partners to make sure that the products reach to our customers in no time and they don't feel anything. And we mentioned earlier, in some products, we had 1 or 2 sources of imports. Today, we have 16 different countries to import our products. And the last thing I will end up with, which is the role of private label. And we as a retailer, we also work with local manufacturers to increase our private label. And I'll give you an example, it's not a secret anymore. We have seen that customers are going much more into private label, especially to meet, you know, the need that they have. And we saw an increase of our private labels 4 times more than the brands in certain stores and in certain countries.
Thank you so much. This is remarkable as to how everyone is coming together because you are trying to juggle access to human resources, talking about technology. Tolga talked about a paradigm shift in, you know, people who we thought would not be comfortable with technology are comfortable with technology. And Busan talked about connection with suppliers, with buyers across different lands, different nations, different regulations. So as I'm listening to that, I have a question because it makes me think, what is the outlook? Is it going to get better or worse? And if it, you know, whether you think it's better, neutral or worse, what will be different? This time I'm going to ask only one sentence, yes or no, and what is it that's going to be different? One sentence. We'll start with you, Hani, and then we'll go backwards with Tolga, William, and Vishant.
Definitely what will change is consumer habits. Our consumers, our customers will never go back to what used to be prior to post-COVID-19, prior to COVID-19. The customer habits have changed into much more online services, into much more convenience, and much more closer to the home. And the eating habits also change to in-home dining versus outside dining. And this will create a major change going forward.
Thank you very much, Hani. Tolga, what would you say?
Kanta, the new normal will be slightly different. Consumers would expect a lot of reassurance. Definitely there will be a shift to healthy eating. Brands need to communicate on a different level. E-commerce, we were not ready for it. Let's accept the fact. It's here to stay. And again, I think media and the way consumers entertain themselves will be different. And at the end of the day, the new reality will be slightly a different one. But I hope that we will come out in a stronger way.
Thank you, Tolga. Now in America, when somebody says different, it usually means bad. So, you know, so how do you like my haircut? You say, it's different. So that means that it's not good. So the answer to my question, do you think it'll be better or worse?
I think it will be better. We will come out stronger.
Thank you. William?
It will not go back. It will stay as is and goes beyond. Two elements is obviously the consumer end, and that will bring big changes. You talked about health and so on, responses like fresh, natural, purity, great taste. It will go now in an accelerated mode. The other one is that the requirement, starting with the consumer, then through the retailers, and then to the manufacturers, into farms, of reliable controls on everything you do, not so much in this case for food safety, but mainly of food security, will be massive. What do you do to protect your farm? That will be the question. And if you have no answer, then of course you will not be very successful in the future in the market.
So are you pessimistic or optimistic?
I'm an optimistic person, so I know that my team will come up, and I will try to lead that with new clever solutions so that we can differentiate ourselves, because that's a differentiation game as well. We are in a world where people have to make choices. Consumers make choices every day in front of the shelves. So yes, that's our task.
Thank you. Bashant, optimistic, neutral, positive, and negative?
Yeah. Thank you, Kanta. Kanta, well, we are business people, so we have to be optimistic.
Yes.
For us, this is one of the biggest stress tests we have faced in our times. We have never seen anything like this before. Unfortunately, it is survival of the fittest. You know, it is harsh, but it is true. If companies have been able to preserve cash and who have the ability and resources to adapt quickly to the change around what's going on, then they are going to be able to be the one to come to the next side. Unfortunately, I don't have a clue as to what that side is going to look like when we do come out of this situation. Yes, of course, consumer behavior will change. People will start buying online more. All this is part and parcel of what we've already discussed today. But I think it will be tough.
Thank you. So we have 4 optimistic people here, which is why they're very successful in what they do. And it's also good news. Your optimism also is an indirect indicator of how prepared and how much preparation you're making. You know, like the duck pedaling like crazy at the bottom, but all you see on the top is this optimistic, smiling duck on top. So that's what you're doing. That's fantastic. So I've been getting a stream of questions. I've been sort of peppering your the conversation with those questions, but now I'm going directly into questions. And the first question is, when can imports and exports get back to normal? So any one of you answer. If anybody else has something to add to it, please do so. If not, I'll go to the next question. Anyone? When can imports and exports get back to normal?
That's a $1 million question, right, Kanta? And, countries today, when they're themselves locking down for exports, very difficult for us to sit in UAE and estimate when is Philippines going to open or which country is the next one to lock down. We don't know. We don't have the answer.
Thank you. While the rest of you answer that, maybe we could have a poll and see what our audience thinks. If they are positive, neutral, or negative about the future? Who's next? William?
Yeah, the first question is what's normal? If risk is high, you need to diversify. Yes, so instead of 2 good sources, you need 10 maybe today for essential materials. So how do you adapt to that? And I don't think that the normal will come back so quickly as it was. The new normal, as we all call it, will look different, and we have to cope with that. So far, because that's a point which, before anybody starts to think all sorts of things, yes, in some sectors you see things happening. Yes, some prices are changing. Yes, this is all happening. But in general, as my colleague in the industry said as well, from Italy, stuff is still coming. So one of the worst hit areas in the world, which is of course extremely sad, is the supplies of food and other things goes on. So we don't see very big pointers yet. But if political or other forces would change, yeah, then unexpected things could happen. But as far as I see today, that has not happened in a big way.
Thank you very much. Tolga?
I would say 3 to 6 months, because what we see, our assessment is supply is available, more or less.
Yeah.
The real challenge is in logistics, either be it documentation or the scheduling. It's a nightmare. The flights, the vessels keep on delaying, the schedules keep on changing. So I see the challenges more on logistics, which hopefully, and we see that things are improving, I would think of a 3 to 6 months window.
Have you talked to any health experts, to the government? When you gave this answer, you got some inside information?
Yes, I'm speaking all the best in class consultants, companies, governments. There is like a 3 to 6 months window, and there is another window of obviously longer. And for the time being, I think the pause is more on the 3 to 6 months window.
Thank you very much. Hani, what would you say?
So actually, I agree with William and Tolga. I think it's a mix. First, we need to define what is normal, because normal will never come back to what it used to be. And the second thing, I think I agree on short term, because many of the countries now start to face a major stress in their economies, and they needed a new window and gate to start exporting their products and getting foreign currency into their countries. So I'm optimistic. I think, again, probably in 3 to 6 months, things will start to change and get back to closer to the normal.
Thank you very much. And are you talking to experts? Are you talking, where are you getting your cues from?
So actually, during this period, we are working very closely with all our governments in all the 16 markets that we are operating in. And in fact, I can tell you, there is the most optimistic governments, like the UAE, they are ready today to secure a 12 months stock available in the country, not anywhere else. And some others, they are still trying to get some stock or trying to find out ways. So it's different from one market to another. But overall, this is what I sense from different governments or even our partners.
Thank you so much. Well, our poll results agree with you. And they are also looking at about 6 months. So they are poised for that, which means they're also tempered. They've tempered their expectations. So they won't get as upset when online delivery is not fast enough, or when the materials that they get has a restriction. You cannot buy get 8 rolls of toilet paper, you only get 2, but you can come back every day for it, or something like that. So that's going to make a big difference. But one thing is loud and clear. The Black Swan makes you think of black and white, but what you're really seeing is a lot of gray. And in that grayness comes out, the survival, they say, of the fittest. And I call it the survival of the optimistic. Because when you're optimistic, you can do it. And like that little engine that says, I can do it, each one of you has looked at it from different angles, and you are doing what it takes to make sure that the food supply and the products are moving from end to end in the supply chain with quality, safety, and definitely price. I'm sure every one of you is taking a hit on price. It's not just consumers that are taking a hit on price. They are concerned with the rising prices, but I imagine that your profitability has gone down considerably, and you will be investing more as you brace for the next 6 months, because if, as health experts talk about it, there is a possibility of this wave returning in a few months. So we should be definitely more prepared. Any closing thoughts from every one of you? Honey?
So yeah, thank you very much. Very insightful what you have said, and thank you for all the colleagues. Great information. I would say I would ask all our audiences to stay positive, because this is the only way where we can build a community, and we can build the right business, and they can count on us as a retailer, supplier, producer, to make sure that we provide to them their fresh produce and essential products daily available for them, whether in the store or online, but we'll be always there to support our community.
Tolga?
At this point in time, our focus is being a committed and responsible player, and delivering on our duties to the community at large.
Thank
For
you.
example, we have 175 people stuck out of the country, abroad. They cannot come back to work. But guess what? Like Danone, we promised to fulfill our duties, and we are paying their salaries in full. So
Thank you.
on this front, this return on investment will be very high. The investment
very
in
much.
people.
Thank you. Wilhelm?
Very similar to the previous speaker. The first priority is to ensure the supply. That has our full focus, and there's no reason we see at the moment that that would not materialize. And that starts with our own people. Keep them safe, keep them on the road, but especially, and that's the thing I like to say, and you mentioned optimism so much, keep them motivated. Keep everybody motivated. If you sleep in your store, and my people carry bags with trucks in the middle of the night from one city to the other, that's commitment. And to cherish and to respect that motivation for the greater good. And that's the one I see also as a personal task in front of me, to keep that momentum going with our team members.
Thank you. And Bushant?
I would like to thank all the peers on the panel for such an insightful webinar as well. First and foremost, my advice, I would say, would be to look after your people. At Truewell, we have invested so much time, energy, emotion into our employees, and I can safely say that many of our employees are 10+ years working in the group.
Thank you.
We need to make sure that they are safe and well taken care of, and we can continue to pay them as long as we can.
Yes.
Mostly, I'm confident that we have the right people governing the country to take us through this. So we all have to stay positive. We all are in the same field, we're all in the same boat. And as businessmen, we have to stay optimistic, and I'm positive that we will bounce back eventually.
Thank you, gentlemen, every one of you. And now I turn this over to my eloquent and golden voiced moderator on the other side, Mark.
Thank you, Kenta. Thank you. I don't know how to react to that. Look, thank you very much, Kenta, for your excellent moderation. And thank you, panel, Bushant, Tolga, Hani, and Willem. Really good to have the views from the entire supply chain. Whilst this session has been going on, I've been listening with great interest to your insights, but I'm also looking at the chat column. We have had hundreds and hundreds of responses. It's not a surprise. We had over 7,000 attendees registered for this session alone. And we'll be coming back on the 13th of May, where we look at some of the questions that we haven't been able to tackle today, and we will help shape in the next session. We do have somebody whose job it is to look into the future and spot some of the problems coming over the horizon. I don't want to give too much away just at the moment, but has a rather more pessimistic view on what our new normal is going to look like. So everybody in the audience, thank you very much for joining us on behalf of Gulf Food and all of us here at Dubai World Trade Center, we very much appreciate your participation, and we look forward to seeing you all again on the 13th of May and at our live event, Gulf Food Manufacturing, where many of you will be able to show, discuss, and meet again in person. And we really look forward to that. Take care, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.